Floyd Mayweather making the move to the heavy bag and switching up the gloves here, Kieran. Of course, they'll be wearing 8-ounce gloves May 2nd as part of the contract negotiations. They will each get to wear their respective gloves. We won't have the glove gate that we saw during the Maidana affair.
Yeah, it was part of the whole element of putting this together and why it took so long and, you know, relatively speaking, was agreed quite close to the fight, was that they had all these particular details to iron out. I mean, these are two superstar fighters, and they're, you know, Manny was quite happy to accede to a lot of the big demands, but there are certain things, you know, Manny's very superstitious, he's very comfortable with his gloves, he wanted to keep his gloves, and it wasn't going to be the fight if he didn't get to keep his gloves, and likewise with Floyd. So all these little details are the stuff that have to get sorted out.
Of course, Mayweather working with 10 sparring partners, including 2 of his former opponents, 2 former champions, 2 southpaws in DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley, who says he's never seen Floyd more focused, and Zab Judah, who many people have brought up the fact that being a speedy southpaw has some similar attributes to Manny Pacquiao, and what we saw in those first 2 rounds when Judah fought Mayweather and really took the fight to Mayweather. There is some correlation there, isn't there, as to what maybe we can expect from a guy who's, let's face it, that much better, that much quicker than Zab Judah, with all due respect to the former champion in Manny Pacquiao. And Zab Judah told us that since that time, in being in this camp, he feels Mayweather is 10 times better, and is actually, I was very impressed with the line he used. He says it's like Floyd Mayweather enters your body and then uses it against you. He calls him a scientist, and really that's what it is.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Neo in the Matrix, isn't it? Everything kind of slows down, you see it all coming. You know, a lot of folks have said, especially when it looked like this was going to be announced, oh, it should have happened 5 years ago, it's too late, it doesn't matter anymore. In a strange way, I find it's a little bit more of an interesting fight now than it might have been in 2010. Both guys are a little bit diminished physically, they're not quite the same. They should be, one's 38, one's 36, I mean, you'd expect. But at the same time, they've learned more. Perhaps through making mistakes in Manny Pacquiao's case, just from learning in Floyd Mayweather's case. They're a lot smarter. I think it's going to be a lot more cagey. We're going to see each guy doing his best to try to impose himself in the early stages. And
can you say Thrilla in Manila? Remember Ali Frazier 3, diminished, but yet produced one of the maybe the best heavyweight title fight ever.
Right, precisely. Not least because they just couldn't get out of each other's way, you know. And will we see anything that exciting? Well, it's one can hope. Given the number of eyes that are going to be on this fight, you obviously want it to be as exciting a fight as it possibly can be. And one of the interesting things about it, I think, is it's really legitimately easy to see a variety of different scenarios.
Really what makes it so compelling, and really the epic clash of styles, and with Manny Pacquiao, again, who we will be covering in full effect tomorrow from Los Angeles in the Wild Card Gym at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 Pacific. Right now, you continue to watch Floyd Money Mayweather work the heavy bag, and really, it is just another day at the office for the champ.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Just the, you know, whatever you feel about Floyd as a fighter or whatever, you cannot possibly put a black mark on his dedication, the amount of work that he does. You know, whatever the hour of day. I mean, I would not want, I'm sure he's very generous. I'm sure he's very generous with his employees, but I would not want to be the guy who gets the 3:30 a.m. call, Kieran, I'm going running, you got to come with me, which is part of life with Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, he's training now like he did in his 20s, and we've heard it throughout the stream and throughout the build-up that at this age it is all about training smarter, not necessarily harder, and now here working the heavy bag, able to discern anything.
Well, I think he's dialing it back for us a little bit. I think he's not, he's not putting on any great flashy combinations for us. He's doing just kind of what you would expect for him. Floyd Mayweather, I think a lot of this is kind of a warm-up to what he really does, right? I mean, he goes in, he'll do a little bit of pad work, he'll do a little bit of bag work. I mean, let's be entirely honest, he could wait till we've gone and then come back for another 3 or 4 hours. So I think the bodyguard behind him looks like he goes to the gym a few times as well, actually.
So getting up close and personal with the champ, although I think he'd like the cameras to move a little bit. as he continues to work the heavy bag. A huge crowd, and as we mentioned, throughout 200 media outlets from around the world. As my Showtime Sports colleague Steve Farhood so astutely put it, Saturday, May 2nd, the world will stop. And there have been other occasions in the history of the sport. We've talked about Ali Frazier won and what that meant to undefeated heavyweight champions, and really a fight that transcended the sport, both culturally and in terms of the sport, and throughout the sport's history. The big fights, there has been that cultural connection. What about the rematch between Joe Louis and Max Schmeling, where you had fascist Germany against the democracy, and Joe Louis becoming the first bona fide African-American hero to American sports fans? But that's not so much here, but we still, in the eyes of the fans, Kieran, we do have the good guy and Manny Pacquiao, who is an icon in his native Philippines, a politician who is a philanthropist and loves to help his people, whereas Floyd Mayweather takes care of his own, but is not above showcasing his wealth.